Hey everybody, welcome to Banfield. I'm Brian Entin in for Ashleigh tonight. I am in Idaho ahead of Bryan Kohberger's sentencing 2 days from now. It is going to happen in the courthouse right behind me, the Ada County Courthouse. You can see they've got these yellow barricades up behind me, getting ready for all of the media. We're the first ones here. We've got a spot right up front. It's going to be a busy week here in Boise. And tonight, even President Trump is weighing in, calling for the judge to make Kohberger tell all, or at least tell why. President Trump today weighed in on the Kohberger trial. He had a whole message about it, which we're going to get to in a second. But with the plea deal already signed, will we actually learn more from Kohberger or from the judge at sentencing? I got a rare interview with one of the victim's sisters to learn how she is preparing for a brutal day in court and what she plans to say to the man who ended 4 young lives and changed hers forever. You won't want to miss that. Really, really raw and emotional. Also, new exclusive information tonight that we just confirmed about what Kohberger was wearing when he went home to Pennsylvania that made it more challenging for investigators to collect his DNA. Remember when he went home with his dad, drove home for Christmas break after the murders? We've got new information about something he was wearing that made it difficult for investigators. That's coming up a little later. Also new tonight, we are looking ahead to a make or break hearing for Lyle and Eric Menendez. 1 month from today, the brothers face parole boards for the first time since they were sent away for life for murdering their parents. It will be the closest that they have come so far to walking out of prison. But it's not their only chance. A judge ruled the other day that evidence the brothers were sexually abused by their father must now be considered. That was another big win for the guys. And since it wasn't at the brothers' trial, some sort of remedy may actually be in order. Over the weekend, the man behind some of that evidence spoke to a British newspaper. I'm going to tell you who he is, what he says, why what he said was such a bombshell. That's coming up in a few minutes. And also in Ohio, this is a crazy one, a teacher turned stalker. Police say she followed her ex to work 33 times in just 19 days, broke into his car, stole his backpack, stole his wallet, stole his laptop. But even with the stack of evidence against her, she was still shocked when she was slapped with jail time. You gotta see this. She totally snapped. All right, so we will unpack what triggered that meltdown with a true crime influencer who has been following that story since day one. That's coming up later in the hour. So it's a jam-packed hour, but of course we will begin tonight right here in Boise, Idaho, here at the courthouse behind me. On Wednesday, a case that has gripped the state and the nation for more than 2.5 years will officially close with Bryan Kohberger sentencing for killing 4 college students in a small town almost 300 miles from where I'm standing right now. We know Kohberger is headed to prison for the rest of his life, but what so many find so troubling, even after his public guilty plea, is the fact that we may never know everything. Why did he do it? Why those particular kids in that particular house on that particular night? The plea agreement does not make him tell his motive, and Kohberger's lead attorney, Ann Taylor, says there are no plans right now for him to offer any details at his sentencing. But the pressure on Judge Stephen Hippler to make Kohberger speak, it is even higher now. And this shocked me. I was on the plane flying here today, and when I saw this post, I couldn't believe it. A post from President Trump today about the Bryan Kohberger case. This is what he posted on Truth Social. Bryan Kohberger, who was responsible in Idaho for the deaths of 4 wonderful young souls, has made a plea bargain deal in order to avoid the death penalty. These were vicious murders with so many questions left unanswered. While life imprisonment is tough, it's certainly better than receiving the death penalty. But before sentencing, I hope the judge makes Kohberger, at a minimum, explain why he did these horrible murders. There are no explanations. There is nothing. People were shocked that he was able to plea bargain, but the judge should make him explain what happened. And then he said, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, officially, President Trump doesn't and won't really have a say in any of this, but could his post actually pressure the judge to ask Kohberger more questions? Could he try to force a confession out of Kohberger on Wednesday? The families of Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Maddie Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves, they will have their chance to finally be heard in court on Wednesday. I spoke with Kaylee's sister, Aliva Goncalves, on my podcast, Bryan Entin Investigates. Take a listen. What would you still like to know? I know you wanted other things to be in the plea deal.
Our main argument wasn't ever for there not to be a plea deal. It really came down more to, let's get a full confession. I also think that the full admission would have been helpful, not only for our healing, because I think for me specifically, and I wish I wasn't this way, I need that full picture, right? I still just feel like I don't even understand what the hell happened, right? Like none of it makes sense to me. And I can look at these facts, but as far as putting something together in my head that makes sense, it's really difficult for me to do with a lack of.
Did you ever get a chance to tell the prosecution that you wanted a full confession, and did they ever respond?
So as soon as we got the email on Sunday, I was kind of trying to do everything that I could. We didn't even know if the deal had been sent to the defense. But immediately I said, has this been sent to the defense? And can we include concessions for the victim's family in the form of XYZ? And at first it wasn't just the confession. It was also, kind of like, can we make him not be able to make money off of this? Can we make him not be able to talk to members of the media? I understand that there's First Amendment rights there and stuff, but in the moment, you're not necessarily thinking super clearly. You're just trying to say well, give me something here.
I think on the outside, everyone has wanted to know what the motive is. Have you been able to get any information? Is there anything that we don't know?
I don't know a why. I think that even if he was hooked up to a lie detector and given truth serum, his, why would be that he was just desperately trying to feel anything at all because he's a psychopath and he doesn't feel human emotions the way we do. I don't think it's a reason that would make sense to any of us because we aren't that. I think that reasoning would only make sense to that type of, human being or whatever you want to call him.
Would you want Kohberger to speak at some point? I mean, you were saying how for you want to know everything. Would you want him to do some kind of interview where he tells all?
I hope that after sentencing, no one ever says his name again, because I think that an individual like he is, any attention is positive. He views it positively. It doesn't matter if someone's talking poorly or talking positively about him, because attention is what is craved and it feeds into his ego. So for me, I think the best way to, kill an ego is to stop feeding it.
What about the sentencing? I know you're getting ready for it. Where are you at in that process?
My speech isn't about the process, the court, the lawyers, the judge. It's not even really about Kaylee or Maddie, because Kaylee and Maddie know. They've been with me every single step of the way, and I refuse to get up there and further re-victimize myself over and over and over for a defendant who does not give a damn. No amount of tears, no amount of, tear jerkers, hearts, nothing is ever going to make him feel anything at best. And at worst, he enjoys it. And I'm just not gonna do it. So you heard Olivia there. She believes that Kohberger is incapable of feeling anything. But we are learning new tonight that he was methodical, trying to cover up the murders and stay off law enforcement's radar. Sources tell NewsNation tonight that when Bryan Kohberger got back to Pennsylvania from Idaho for Christmas break after the murders,
When he left his parents' house, they tell us that he was always wearing gloves, according to the sources, and that is the reason why the FBI had to do a trash pull to get his DNA. Remember, they had to go in his parents' trash, pull out the Q-tip, and get the DNA that way, which connected back to his dad, because according to our sources, pretty much every time he left the house, he was wearing gloves. Also, another new nugget of information tonight. You remember the investigation into the leaks over the Dateline episode? The judge here was very, very upset about it. Well, NewsNation has learned just because sentencing on Wednesday is happening and the gag order is over, we have learned that the investigation into the leak is ongoing and has not ended, and that the investigation will continue. So it'll be interesting to see where that leads. Joining me now is trial attorney and host of the podcasts Two Angry Men and Reasonable Doubt, Mark Geragos. Nice to see you, Mark. Thank you for coming on tonight. First of all, what do you make of President Trump's post today about the Kohberger case? And could that actually push the judge into trying to get some kind of confession out of Kohberger on Wednesday?
I doubt that it's going to push the judge to get into to do anything he wasn't going to do anyway. There's two things, however, that have kind of struck me about this plea deal. Number one is generally when you're trying to get somebody to take the death penalty off the table in a negotiation, which is fairly common in capital cases, a lot of times there are either attorney proffers or there are debriefs that the prosecutor requires. I don't know if that's been done in this case. I don't know if already the prosecutor has said, as part of the obligation to not seek the death penalty, he's asked some questions or he's met with them, and I don't know that they would reveal that if he had. As far as the judge goes, if this were federal court, in federal court, judges have the ability to have somebody stipulate to a factual basis and refuse to take the plea and say, I want to know this, I want to know that, I want you to answer my questions about the factual basis for the plea. We're not in federal courts, so that doesn't have much import here, but it is something where I understand from the family's standpoint why they want more information. I mean, I don't quite understand the way that this is being kind of, the public is getting the information, because clearly if the prosecutor was going to do this, and obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but the families are split in terms of whether or not they buy into this bargain, but this is actually, I think, a win for the prosecution in terms of getting a plea, not having to go through trial, not having to go through the circus, and ultimately, I think the same for the victims. But at the same time, the prosecutor, I would have hoped, would have gotten the information and shared it privately with the families to give them some degree of, the word that always gets used is closure.
Yeah, and I know that that has not happened just because I've been in touch with the families, and they haven't gotten any shred of information about a confession or anything more than what we know besides the fact that he pled guilty. That's it. But I'm curious, with these sentencings, Mark, how do they typically work? Because there's going to be a lot of family members that want to speak from the different families. Will they speak first, and then Bryan Kohberger would be given the opportunity to speak second?
Generally, that's the way it works. Generally, what happens is you get a victim impact statement. If you're a defense lawyer, it's one of the toughest things to sit through as part of your job, is to listen to victim impact statements. If you've got any kind of empathy whatsoever, it's absolutely gut-wrenching. You go through all of that. Then the judge will hear the arguments of the lawyers. Generally, I say, most judges will say the defendant or the accused has a right to allocute, to say something on his behalf. You do not have to. I often counsel clients not to say anything if it is a deal that is set in stone, because it doesn't help. In this case, you do have this kind of illusory no right to appeal. As the judge has already pointed out, there's no way to really enforce that other than to say, have an appellate court say we're going to enforce the plea bargain and not entertain an appeal if you've already waived it. But you can always, there's always going to be avenues by which you can bring a successive petition later on.
Right. But so after, so the victims' families will get a chance to finally speak. Then could the judge say, based on all of this pressure and anger from the families, could the judge say, Bryan Kohberger, we would like to hear more from you. We would like to hear more details about what happened? I mean, would that be allowed?
Well, look, there is a separation of powers. Just because the prosecutor wants to go in and do a deal does not mean that a judge can rubber stamp it or has to rubber stamp it. A judge can say, I want more information. A judge can say, I want to have a colloquy with the accused before he pleads. I want to make sure this is a knowing and voluntary waiver, which is the nomenclature that you use. A judge has a great deal of authority to engage on this because the judge is the one who's going to sentence. I've seen judges on many occasions say, I'm not going to go along with this. I'm the sentencing judge. I'm not bound. I'm not constrained, and I don't have to do it. In this case, I find that to be highly unlikely. But then again, in this case, the highly unlikely seems to be the likely outcome at every point. So I don't want to make any predictions about it. And I'm certainly no expert on Idaho state procedure, but I will tell you that there is no way that a judge could be constrained from asking questions, getting more information, and satisfying him or herself that it is a knowing and voluntary waiver.
Okay, so he could ask questions if he wanted to, it sounds like. Even though Kohberger has pleaded guilty, is there still any benefit legally for him to show some remorse at the sentencing? Like, I'm thinking, could he get to go to a better prison in Idaho? I mean, is there some reason that he would still almost want to show remorse and impress the judge to a certain extent? Or does it not even matter anymore now that the deal has been worked out?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I know that I could make an argument that somehow it matters, and you could make an argument for safety purposes or protective custody purposes or this, that, or the other. The reality is it doesn't matter one whit. I'm thinking about this defense attorney, Ann Taylor, and I've been following the case for years now and seen her at all the hearings. She stayed totally tight-lipped. She never says a word. But you're a criminal defense lawyer. I mean, what is it like for her right now? Because she stood by him through all of this. She said she believed in his innocence several times, very passionately. She'd put her hand on his shoulder in court and say, I believe this man is innocent. What do you think it's like for her at this stage? I have seen so much chatter about her, undeserved, so much hate and vitriol directed towards her that it's, as a fellow member of the sorority or fraternity of criminal defense lawyers, I will tell you, there's no amount of money, whatever the amount that she's getting paid, that is worth the amount of hate that you receive. And she did and has done an admirable job, zealously defending her client. Her job is not to be a window dressing. Her job is not to kind of curry favor with the public opinion. Her job is to zealously defend and to explore every possibility of holding the government to their responsibility if they're going to attempt to put somebody to death. That's what she is supposed to do, what she's sworn an oath to do. And instead of criticizing her, I think that which has been totally off base, I think people should herald somebody who does that with absolutely, nobody's giving her pats on the back. Nobody's saying what a great job she's done. She has done exactly what the system cries out for and done it, I think, from my standpoint and my viewpoint. And I don't know her, but I've watched her, as you have, admirably.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Mark Geragos, stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Not finished with you. We've got you after this break because we are closing in on a very important date for two of your very important clients, Lyle and Eric Menendez. Shifting topics here. The brothers are facing their first ever parole hearing while fighting on a separate track to have their convictions thrown out entirely. A lot has happened with this case in the last week. A man whose testimony might be key to that effort has just spoken publicly. I'm going to get into that. We're going to have Mark back after the break. All the latest news right after this. Exactly 1 month from today, August 21st, Lyle and Eric Menendez will do something most inmates in state prisons get to do eventually, but they never have: face a parole board. The original sentences of life with no possibility of parole were changed back in May, as you know, and now freedom, it is a real possibility, but it's far from guaranteed. It's also possible the brothers could get their murder convictions thrown out altogether. It's a separate legal fight over two pieces of evidence that were not admitted at trial 29 years ago. One piece of evidence is a letter written by the brothers' cousin describing a pattern of sexual abuse by Lyle and Eric's father. That cousin passed away more than 20 years ago. And the other piece of evidence is from Roy Rosselló. He's a former member of the boy band Menudo who gave sworn testimony that he also was raped by Jose Menendez. Now, recently, a judge agreed with Lyle and Eric's lawyers that if the jury had seen that evidence, their verdict might well have been different. So now it's up to prosecutors to show, if they can, why the convictions should still stand. Over the weekend, the ex-Menudo member spoke to a British newspaper. He said, and I quote, "I am proud and happy about the judge's decision. My testimony was not in vain. To my understanding, these individuals are always innocent victims. Their souls have been lost, condemned, and mutilated, devoid of hope, future, or destiny since the day their father began to abuse them." The judge made a wise and prudent decision. Now is the time for the system to implement changes in many areas, particularly regarding the statute of limitations of these crimes. All right, let's get back to Mark Geragos now. He is the lead attorney for Lyle and Eric Menendez. Mark, this Roy Rosselló statement going on the record saying that my testimony was not in vain. What's your reaction?
Well, I'll tell you, I was seeing that come out over the weekend. I also watched today a interview with the governor, Gavin Newsom, with Ryan Murphy. And obviously coming on the heels of Judge Ryan's decision to issue a formal order to show cause, basically saying we made our prima facie case that this conviction should be set aside. You know, I've always used the term, Brian, with you, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm ratcheting that up. I'm more than optimistic. I think the time has come. I think the stars are in alignment. I just think it's which path we go down to for them to walk out of prison finally, after 35 years of doing tremendous work.
Have you spoke to them recently? What has their reaction been, you know, to all these developments just over the last week?
I have, and look, they're putting in the work. They're doing what they have to do. They're serious, both of them. Eric's had a little medical issue, but the two of them are working hard, and they're working with one of the best parole lawyers in the game. And like I said, we've got an embarrassment of riches. I told you before, Brian, 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, about 27 months ago, when Cliff Gardner, my co-counsel, I take umbrage at being called lead counsel, co-counsel with Cliff, when we filed this and we decided, we never thought that we would be here 27 months later. And so for post-conviction litigation, to have this many the proverbial irons in the fire is incredibly gratifying, and I really am as hopeful as I've ever been.
Yeah, you really have made a ton of progress since when we first started interviewing you about this. It's crazy to think about it. You mentioned Eric having a minor medical issue. I haven't heard about that. What's going on?
I don't want to reveal too much. I will just tell you he's a tough guy and he's getting attention for it, and he'll work his way through it. And I'll just leave it at that. He's on the mend.
Okay. I interviewed the district attorney, Los Angeles district attorney last week. He told me when we asked him about this new evidence that it's not new, that it's not important, that he doesn't see the show cause order as a huge deal, and kind of downplayed the whole thing. What has been your reaction to him?
Look, I don't know. I'm not going to psychoanalyze Nathan Hochman, but I am so perplexed by him when he says he doesn't see it as a big deal. Mind you, he did a dog and pony show press conference in February. You will remember, Brian, because you covered it. They did as much of a full-throated response, throwing everything at this judge on the informal reply. Everything. They just, whether it was true, untrue, scurrilous, or whatever, they threw everything at the judge. And the judge still issued the order, the formal order to show cause. So he can say or downplay it, but if he doesn't watch out, he's going to become the Gil Garcetti of his generation, and this is going to become something that is going to come back to haunt him. I don't know why he's drawn a line in the sand on this case. It really is not only tone deaf, it ignores part of what he campaigned to get into office on. He campaigned to get into office that he was not going to ignore victims. Well, as Roy Rosselló said, these men were, yes, they were perpetrators, but they were also victims. And by the way, the families who are the true victims are uniform. All living family members want them out. So stop ignoring the victims, stop grandstanding, Mr. Hochman, and just concede is what I would tell him. Why are you drawing a line in the sand here? I don't know whose interest you're vindicating.
Yeah, it is interesting. Every time we interview him, Mark, he's so passionate and he really digs his feet in every single time. He doesn't seem to let up at all. Mark Geragos, appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you.
Brian, anytime for you. I'll even do 2 segments for you.
I mean, man, we got to keep you for the 3rd segment next time. All right. Thank you, Mark. All right. Still to come. She followed her ex to work 33 times in 19 days. She broke into his car, stole his wallet, stole his computer, and when a judge gave her 7 days in jail, this was her reaction. What triggered this courtroom meltdown and that shrieking? That's coming up next. All right, so we have seen defendants melt down in courtrooms before, especially when they get decades or life in prison or worse. But 7 days in the county jail? Oh my gosh, that's Hannah Freeman, formerly a 4th grade teacher in a Cleveland suburb and the daughter of a police chief. She was arrested last November after following her ex-boyfriend to his job at a middle school 33 times. She followed the ex-boyfriend 33 times in 19 days. And that wasn't all. Detectives say she broke into his car, stole his wallet, stole 2 backpacks, stole 2 computers, and this was 8 months after their breakup. Still couldn't get over the guy, apparently. Here's what the victim told 911.
My ex-girlfriend continues to stalk me and park her car next to wherever I am and follow me home every night.
So when police confronted Freeman, here's what she said.
Well, we got a complaint from him that you were in his vehicle tonight and you're harassing him and stalking him.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Did you take some items from him last night?
Oh, that shaking of the head. Freeman was charged with burglary, theft, menacing by stalking, and more. And last month, she agreed to plead guilty to lesser charges, expecting probation. But then, here's what the judge said.
I regret the incident. I definitely acted out of emotion, and I regret that decision that I made that night. And I will take steps necessary to move on from this incident, and you will not see me back here again.
All right, so things took a turn despite a claim by Freeman's attorney that he had made a deal with prosecutors to avoid jail time. The judge gave her 7 days in jail with 18 months probation, something she didn't expect. The defense tried and failed to withdraw Freeman's guilty plea. And then just really all hell broke loose in the courtroom. Oh my, okay, I'm joined now by the digital creator who's been on the story from the get-go. She goes by the handle Abby Blabby, which is a very fun name, Abby Blabby, with the, you even got the neon in the, you got the neon in the background.
Yeah.
So what is the deal? Yeah, it's good. What is the deal with this woman? Like, were you expecting this outburst? Had she been kind of like nutso before? I mean, obviously we know from the stalking, but was she like common court before this?
Yeah, I mean, from what I could see, and honestly, when the defense attorney started arguing with the judge, my jaw about hit the floor. I did not expect that at all. But then her outbreak, the shrieking and the crying, I mean, like you said, there are people who get sentenced to life who don't have that kind of dramatic response. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah.
And during her statement, she was looking down like she was reading a script. Did that part come as a surprise? Or, I mean, it's kind of felt like almost inauthentic.
Yeah, it seems that the defense attorney should have prepared her better. I mean, her statement wasn't very long by any means. I think it was just a few sentences. So she couldn't have at least memorized it. It didn't seem genuine at all. Not one bit.
Did you see, while you were covering the trial of the victim at all, did he have to come in, or not the trial, but the hearing, did he ever have to come in and testify or anything?
I didn't see anything like that, no. I think his identity has remained pretty concealed.
Yeah, which is a good thing. We heard that one soundbite from the 911 call, but that was it. Originally charged with 7 felonies, facing a mountain of video evidence. I mean, do you believe that this was a reasonable sentence?
Extremely reasonable. I mean, she was charged with 5 felonies, I think, and the plea deal, I mean, she didn't even have to plead guilty to 1 felony. This woman is getting, I mean, 3 misdemeanors. I mean, that's incredible. And the one alone, obstructing business, I have it written down here somewhere, but that one alone is a 2nd-degree misdemeanor punishable by up to 90 days in jail and a $750 fine. She doesn't have to pay any fines, and she didn't get 90 days. She didn't even get a month. She got 1 week. So very reasonable.
Obviously, the judge. Yeah, and that shrieking noise. I mean, my gosh, the shrieking. Abby Blabby. Yeah, it was bad. I feel bad for people at home trying to go to bed. That shrieking.
Yeah.
It was. Abby Blabby, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, still to come tonight, the man accused of tormenting, murdering, and dumping the remains of a young girl in Florida will never breathe free air again. You remember this guy. To save his own neck, the victim's mother's boyfriend took a plea deal today in an Orange County courtroom. We'll have all the details on what happened today. That's next. Stephon Stearns was due to go on trial this week in Florida on 60 counts of sexual battery against his girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter. Her name was Madeline Soto. Such a sad case. Authorities say Stearns didn't just molest the girl for years. In February of last year, he strangled her, dumped her body on the side of a country road. His murder trial was set for September, but tonight both trials are off because today Stearns pleaded guilty to the sex crimes and no contest to a first-degree murder charge. And in exchange, the state agreed to a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors dropped their plans to seek the death penalty, and Stearns made a brief statement apologizing, quote, for all the pain and calling the young girl he tortured and killed, quote, truly a joy. Madeline's dad and aunt, they made statements of their own. Here's some of that from Court TV.
Because of the actions of this depraved man, I will never meet the woman she was becoming. And I can't grasp it. I can't grasp the selfishness of you, the deplorability of your actions. You're depraved. You're weak. You're a coward. You're a sneak thief. You crept into a family and took advantage and exploited them when they were weak. It's torn my family apart. It's led to arguments about who can go where and who can get what and who can help who, but we're all on edge because it doesn't heal with time. This isn't like other deaths that I've experienced. This just gets worse.
I have so much hatred in my heart, specifically for the creature that's sitting in this room today. And no matter what happens or what justice could be brought, it kills me that it doesn't bring me back. I would give up my life if it meant having you here with us. Even though I was your aunt, you always felt much more like a little sister to me. Doing your hair for the father-daughter dances that my dad would take you to, letting you pick out clothes from my closet, doing your makeup and making sure it was very light because your natural beauty was worth more than any makeup product money could buy. I just miss you every single day, and it's left a hole in my heart from the day you've been gone. Your innocence was taken from you, and since clearly that wasn't enough for a certain someone, so was your life. You were the bravest little girl I've ever met, full of love, light, laughter, and as any positive thing I could think of, you were all of those things. I'm so blessed to have spent 13 years with someone so wonderful, and you're going to live on through all of us.
The evidence against Stearns was overwhelming. He was caught on surveillance video driving Madeline's body around in his car before moving her to the trunk, and police found molestation photos on his phone, despite his having factory reset at the same day that Madeline went missing. Just talk about a terrible, terrible person. All right, before we go to break, I got to show you some wild video out of New York City. This is crazy. An NYPD drone team caught 3 teenagers and a 12-year-old boy riding on top of a high-speed subway train, a dangerous stunt known as subway surfing. Look at them right there. The kids were taken into custody at a stop in the Bronx, and one of them, we don't know which one, became the 200th subway surfer apprehended by the drone team since it was formed in 2023. My gosh, that looks dangerous. I doubt they got a prize or anything, but really, if being arrested is the worst thing that happens to you after you zip around New York City on the top of a subway car, oh my gosh, imagine that. It could fall down so easily. Certainly better than falling off and dying, the arrest, man. All right, coming up, you may have heard people say everything tastes better when grandma makes it, and one granny took that sentiment straight to the bank. Not with cookies or chicken pot pie, but with hard drugs. You're gonna meet the cocaine queen of North London, Cocaine Granny. She's coming up next. All right, it is a fact that people in their golden years live longer and better if they have a purpose and close ties with family and friends. So good for you, Deborah Mason. That's not why you're in our What in the World segment with the fancy graphic you just saw. You're in the news because of what your purpose was, dealing cocaine all over Britain. And those family ties came in handy. That was the cocaine granny that you just saw right there. Prosecutors say you recruited your sister, 4 of your own kids, 2 of the kids' partners, and a family friend to help sell and deliver coke that was bought from a mysterious supplier named Bugsy. I don't know where we get these stories for the end of this show, but it's crazy. A ton of coke, give or take, over a 7-month period. Authorities called it an extraordinarily profitable criminal enterprise. And Deborah, a 65-year-old grandmother from North London, became known as Queen Bee. That was her nickname. Though I seriously doubt that nickname will stick in her new hive. Last Friday, she was sentenced to 20 years in one of His Majesty's prisons. Others in the ring got from 10 to 15 years, except for one of the kids' partners who is pregnant. She will be sentenced after she gives birth. And as for Bugsy, well, it's still a mystery. We're going to keep our eyes on that one, and we'll keep our eyes on the cocaine grandma. All right, and of course, we will be very serious about our coverage here in Boise, Idaho. The Kohberger sentencing starting on Wednesday. Might go into Thursday if it has to go long. I've actually got something big planned for tomorrow that I don't want to talk about yet, but Ashleigh will be back tomorrow. I'll be on her show tomorrow night with some new reporting. Everybody have a great night. We're live tonight in Idaho.